Breaking news, this time a murder case out of Tavares involving a 10-year-old, one step closer to a resolution after his mother changed her plea to no contest in his death.
Kimberly Mills agreed to work with the state in their prosecution of her then boyfriend, Andre Walker. West News' David Jones live at the Lake County Courthouse. David, what happened in court today?
The judge accepted her change of plea just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. The state was pursuing the death penalty against both Mills and her boyfriend, Andre Walker. With this change of plea, Mills will avoid death, but she will remain behind bars for the rest of her life in the death of her young son. And she has agreed to work with the state in their prosecution of Walker. Mills walked into the court with her hair cut short, speaking in a soft voice. She entered her change of plea to no contest, which basically states the defendant acknowledges the punishment but does not admit guilt in court. Before the judge accepted her plea, her attorney spoke for her, saying her reason for changing her plea was so that her surviving son, Xavier Williams' little brother, did not have to testify against his mother in court. Xavier went into cardiac arrest and was taken to the hospital by both Mills and Walker last February. He spent weeks in a coma and died in March. Investigators searched the home Xavier and his brother shared with their mother, finding evidence of abuse, including a 10-pound weight they said was intentionally dropped on his stomach as a form of punishment police called torture. His aunt shared a few words about how their family is feeling following the news today.
Nothing would ever justify a life. And I believe, like, whether they get the death penalty or don't get the death penalty, that's not gonna bring my nephew back. That's not gonna bring my brother's son back. God is the only person that can say, okay, you know, this is what is gonna happen to them for what they did.
And when I looked,
Xavier's biological father, Xavier Williams, also shared some words about his son, about how difficult it's been to live life without him and how much talent he had. He broke down and had to briefly leave the courtroom. Now all eyes are on the mom's boyfriend, Andre Walker, as he moves towards trial. Mills, through her attorney, said something that the family tells me was just jaw-dropping. We'll have that at 5 o'clock. Meanwhile, the family also tells me that the trial of Andre Walker is not expected to happen for some time. Covering Lake County, live in Tavares, David Jones, WESH 2 News.
In every home, behind every closed door, there's a story waiting to be uncovered. Welcome to Dark Whispers, where we dive deep into the hidden truths of domestic crime and the relationships that turn deadly. If you're drawn to real stories, powerful insights, and the shadows most people avoid, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and step into the whispers they never wanted you to hear. A mother stood in court and said she loved her children. The same mother whose 10-year-old son died after she and her boyfriend tortured him with a 10-pound weight, duct tape, and a ladder. Let me tell you something. The family sitting in that courtroom, they lost it when she said that. And honestly, make it make sense. Xavier Williams was 10 years old. A kid with talent, a kid with a future, a kid with a whole life ahead of him. He lived in Tavares, Florida with his mother, Kimberly Mills, her boyfriend, Andre Walker, and his younger brother. His biological father, Kenneth Williams, wasn't in the home, but he loved his son. He knew his boy had something special, but inside that house in Tavares, something else was happening. Something that police would later call one of the most heartbreaking cases in the city's history. Xavier and his little brother weren't just living with their mother and her boyfriend. They were surviving them. See? This wasn't about discipline. This wasn't about a parent trying to raise their kids right. This was torture. Actual torture. We're talking about a 10-pound weight being intentionally dropped on Xavier's stomach as punishment. A ladder used to torment him. Duct tape. These weren't accidents. These were tools. Tools that Kimberly Mills and Andre Walker used on not just Xavier, but his younger brother too. Think about that for a second. A child, in his own home, the place that's supposed to be safe, being treated like this, day after day, and his little brother watching it happen, living through it too. The abuse wasn't hidden well enough, though, because eventually, everything came crashing down. In February, Xavier went into cardiac arrest. His mother, Kimberly Mills, and her boyfriend, Andre Walker, rushed him to the hospital. Now, on the surface, that might look like two panicked adults trying to save a child. But when doctors examined Xavier, they saw something that made them pick up the phone and call police immediately. Severe bruising, burn marks, signs of sexual abuse. This wasn't a medical emergency. This was a crime scene, and Xavier's body was the evidence. The 10-year-old was admitted to the hospital in critical condition. His little body had been through too much. He slipped into a coma, and for weeks, he fought. Weeks of his family praying, hoping, waiting for him to wake up. But in March, Xavier Williams died, 10 years old. That's it. That's all the time he got on this earth. And the two people who were supposed to protect him, they're the reason he's gone. After Xavier was hospitalized, investigators did what they always do. They went to the home. They needed to see where this child had been living, what his environment looked like, whether there was evidence of what had happened to him. Girl, what they found made this case go from suspicious to absolutely damning. They found that 10-pound weight, the one that had been dropped on Xavier's stomach as punishment. They found the ladder. They found duct tape. And they found evidence that both Xavier and his younger brother had been living in conditions that no child should ever experience. Police didn't mince words. They called it torture, not abuse, not mistreatment. Torture. The evidence painted a clear picture. Kimberly Mills and Andre Walker had been tormenting these children, and it had been going on for who knows how long. The younger brother had seen it all, lived through it all, and now he was the key witness to what had happened to his big brother. Both Mills and Walker were arrested. The state wasn't playing around either. They announced they would be pursuing the death penalty against both of them. This was a murder case now, and the prosecutors wanted the maximum punishment. But then, something shifted. Kimberly Mills walked into the Lake County Courthouse with her hair cut short, speaking in a soft voice. She was there to change her plea. No contest. Now, for those who don't know, a no contest plea is interesting. It basically means the defendant acknowledges the punishment but doesn't admit guilt. She's saying, "I'm not saying I did it, but I'll accept the consequences as if I did." Mills entered a no contest plea to 5 counts, including murder. And with that plea came a deal. She would avoid the death penalty. Instead, she'd spend the rest of her life behind bars. But there was another part of the agreement. She would testify against Andre Walker when his trial came up. Her attorney stood up and spoke for her, giving the reason for the plea change. He said Mills wanted to spare her surviving son, Xavier's younger brother, from the trauma of having to testify against his own mother in court. Let that sink in. The same woman who let her boyfriend torture her children, the same woman who participated in the abuse that killed her 10-year-old son, was now positioning herself as someone trying to protect her surviving child from trauma. And then her attorney said something that made jaws drop in that courtroom. "On behalf of Miss Mills, she would like me to indicate to Your Honor that she very much loves her children. She very much loves her children." Those words hung in that courtroom like a bad smell, because everybody in that room knew what had happened to those children. Everybody knew about the weight, the ladder, the duct tape. Everybody knew Xavier was dead because of what happened in that house. And Xavier's family? They were sitting right there, listening to this. His aunt spoke about it later, and you could hear the disbelief in her voice. "I lost it when she said that," she said. "Think about that." Here's a woman who just watched her nephew's mother get sentenced to life in prison for his death, and the thing that broke her wasn't the sentence. It was hearing Kimberly Mills claim she loved her kids. While she's in there talking about how she loves her children, we're out here still grieving. Period. Because that's the reality, right? Mills gets to sit in that courtroom and have her attorney paint her as a mother trying to protect her surviving son. But Xavier's family? They're the ones who have to live with the loss. They're the ones who have to get up every single day knowing that boy is never coming home. Kenneth Williams, Xavier's biological father, spoke too. His statement to the court was brief, but you could feel the weight of every word. To get up every day to know that my son is not around, he said. He talked about Xavier's talent, about everything his son could have been, everything he'll never get the chance to become. He broke down, had to leave the courtroom for a moment because the pain was just too much. That's what this case really is. Not legal proceedings and plea deals. It's a father who lost his son. It's a little boy who lost his brother. It's an aunt who lost her nephew. It's a family shattered by two people who were supposed to love and protect Xavier. The judge accepted Mills's plea that afternoon. She was sentenced to life in the Department of Corrections. No possibility of parole. She'll die in prison, and that's exactly where she belongs. But the case isn't over. Andre Walker, the boyfriend, is still waiting for his trial. The state is still pursuing the death penalty against him. And now, with Mills agreeing to testify against him as part of her plea deal, all eyes are on what happens next. The family was told his trial isn't expected to happen for some time, so they wait. They wait for justice for Xavier, even though they know no verdict will ever bring him back. Xavier's aunt said it best. Nothing would ever justify a life. Whether they get the death penalty or don't get the death penalty, that's not going to bring my nephew back. That's not going to bring my brother's son back. God is the only person that can say, okay, this is what is going to happen to them for what they did. And she's right. Because at the end of the day, no sentence, no punishment, no courtroom drama changes the fact that Xavier Williams is gone. A 10-year-old boy with his whole life ahead of him, reduced to a case file, a news story, a tragedy that people will forget about in a few weeks when the next headline drops. But his family won't forget. They can't forget. Here's what gets me about cases like this. We hear about child abuse all the time. We see the headlines, we shake our heads, we move on. But when you really sit with the details, when you think about what Xavier went through, it becomes so much more than a headline. This was a child who woke up every day in a house where the people who were supposed to care for him saw him as something to punish, something to hurt. A 10-pound weight wasn't grabbed in a moment of anger. That's premeditated. That's intentional. You have to pick up that weight. You have to position yourself over a child, and you have to decide to drop it on their stomach. And you have to live with yourself after doing it. The duct tape, the ladder, all of it required thought, required planning, required a level of cruelty that most of us can't even wrap our minds around. And Xavier's little brother saw it all. He lived through it too. That child is going to carry those memories for the rest of his life. Mills's attorney said she changed her plea to spare her younger son from testifying against her. But let's be real. That boy has already been through hell. The trauma isn't from potentially testifying in court. The trauma is from living in that house, from watching his brother suffer, from suffering himself, from losing Xavier. So when Mills claimed through her attorney that she loves her children, the family's reaction wasn't surprising. It was the only reaction that made sense, because love doesn't look like torture. Love doesn't look like a 10-year-old dying from abuse. Love doesn't look like any of what happened in that house. Moving on to the reality Xavier's family faces now. Christmas came. The first Christmas without Xavier. His little brother cried. Of course he did. He's a child processing the loss of his sibling, the trauma of what they went through together, and the reality that his mother is in prison for the rest of her life. Kenneth Williams talked about how difficult it's been to live life without his son. That's not something that gets easier. That's not something time heals. Every birthday Xavier doesn't celebrate, every milestone he doesn't reach, every moment of potential that's been stolen. That's what Kenneth has to live with. The aunt, the extended family. They're all navigating this grief while also watching the legal process unfold. They have to show up to court hearings. They have to hear defense attorneys try to humanize the people who killed Xavier. They have to sit through delays and continuances and legal procedures that probably feel meaningless when all they want is their boy back. And they're not getting him back. That's the part that doesn't change, no matter what happens with Andre Walker's trial.
Police call it one of the most heartbreaking cases in Tavares City history. I'm Catherine Silver here in Lake County, where a mother was sentenced to life in prison at the courthouse this afternoon following the death of her 10-year-old son.
To get up every day, to know that my son is not around.
Difficult doesn't describe the pain Xavier Williams says he's living with after losing his 10-year-old son. His emotional statement to the court Wednesday ended in tears before the boy's own mother was sentenced to life in prison for his death.
You are hereby sentenced to life in the Department of Corrections.
Tavares police say Xavier suffered unspeakable abuse from his mom, Kimberly Mills, and her boyfriend, Andre Walker. Pictures shared by investigators showcase the latter 10-pound weight and duct tape they say were used to torment the boy and his younger brother inside the family's home. In February, Xavier was rushed to the hospital with severe bruising, burn marks, and signs of sexual abuse.
On behalf of Ms. Mills, she would like me to indicate to Your Honor that she very much loves her children.
Mills' attorney says she agreed to plead no contest to 5 counts, including a murder charge, to save Xavier's brother from the trauma of testifying against her at a trial.
I lost it. When she said that,
the boy's aunt says nothing will ever justify her family's loss, their pain, this tragedy.
Christmas was hard. He was crying. This is one Christmas that he didn't have his brother. While she's in there talking about, oh, she loves her children, we're out here still grieving.
This plea agreement spares Mills from the death penalty, but it also requires her to testify against her boyfriend at his upcoming trial that's set for later this year. In Lake County, I'm Catherine Silver, News 6.
Walker's trial is still pending. The family knows it's going to be a while before that happens. And when it does, they'll have to relive all of this again. They'll have to hear the details of what Xavier went through. They'll have to see the evidence. They'll have to watch Kimberly Mills take the stand and testify against the man she was with when all of this happened. The state wants the death penalty for Walker. Whether they'll get it, that's up to a jury. But even if they do, even if Walker gets the maximum punishment possible under the law, it doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't give Xavier his life back. It doesn't erase the pain his little brother is living with. The Lake County prosecutors called this one of the most heartbreaking cases in Tavares history. And they're not wrong. Because this wasn't a stranger danger situation. This wasn't a random act of violence. This was a mother and her boyfriend torturing a child in his own home. The place where he should have been safest became the place where he suffered the most. You know what nobody wants to talk about? How many people might have known something was wrong? How many times Xavier might have shown up somewhere with bruises that got explained away? How many red flags got missed or ignored? Because abuse like this, torture like this, it doesn't happen in complete isolation. There are usually signs. Teachers see things. Neighbors hear things. Family members notice changes in behavior. But too often, people don't want to get involved. They don't want to make accusations. They don't want to believe that a mother could do something like this to her own child. And I'm not saying that to blame anyone specific in Xavier's case. We don't know all the details of who knew what and when. But it's a conversation we need to have, because for every Xavier Williams whose story makes the news, there are countless other children suffering right now in silence. Xavier Williams deserved better. He deserved to grow up. He deserved to discover his talents and chase his dreams and live a full life. He deserved parents who loved him, not people who tortured him. He didn't get any of that. But maybe his story can be the wake-up call that saves another child. Maybe someone watching this will recognize the signs of abuse in a child they know and will actually do something about it. That's the only way Xavier's death means anything. That's the only legacy that matters. Rest in peace, Xavier Williams. You deserved so much more than what this world gave you.